This podcast is a conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro and is a production of VI Alliance, copyright 2019. And this chart-busting hit, Alone Leave Me, courtesy of New Threads, is available everywhere. As you know, traditionally, the director's cut appears on DVDs and gives you the inside scoop on the actors, the movie, and of course, the directorial process. EI Alliance, in association with Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro, is the first to create the author's cut. For the first time ever, you get to hear the who, what, where, when, why, and how the authors came up with what they wrote directly from the authors. This is revolutionary access to the creative energy and to the creative energy surrounding the authors. Please note, these conversations for the author's cut occurred in 2015 after the authors published Energetic Invocations, a Book of Vibrational Change. Back then, the original recordings were produced with an audio version of the book, read by the authors as well. All copyrights and disclaimers of the book apply to these podcasts. So enjoy as the authors discuss Energetic Invocations, a Book of Vibrational Change, also known as the Blue Book of Energy, and Energetic Invocations Series, a Book of Vibrational Change, Volumes 1 to 17, with Process This. Part 1, Self, Who I Am.
Hi, this is Julie Benetti.
And this is Susan Barbaro.
Who I am. Really get into the truth of that. It's not who am I, it's who I am. Knowing that you are meant to be you.
And that's the only person you were meant to be. You know, I was placed on this earth to be the best Susan Barbaro that ever lived. I was not meant to be here and be as good as this person or that person or a mentor or better than someone. I wasn't meant to be better than anyone. I was meant to be me.
And by investigating yourself and asking these kind of questions and questioning your beliefs and following that journey,
you start to define who that is. And actually, once you uncover all the stories and things that you have been told, and you let all of that go, then what happens is like going in and cleaning the whole house. And then you're sitting there with 4 white walls. And now you get to decide what color rug you want. You get to put up pictures. And when there's nothing or nobody dictating, you get to do whatever you want. And if we all do that, imagine what this world looks like. I'm not in competition with anyone. No one's in competition with me. I am my own worst competition because I'm going to constantly push myself to be who I am supposed to be. But that's in no relation to anyone else. And once you realize that, there's nothing you have to do to deserve anything. I don't need to take anything from anyone. I don't need to do anything other than be who I am. There's nothing I need from anyone else. And the more I understand that, then I don't need to take from anyone else.
And once you get that awareness, you get more clarity. And you start to, like you said, you start to fill up your clean room because you've been doing the work. And now you get to have fun in it. And you start to really realize, well, wait a minute. I want to be the best Julie Benetti that I can be. Why would I want to be someone else? And what does that mean? And as you keep following that journey, I mean, the energy is very powerful.
You know, we're talking about the ego with this.
And the ego's there to help you. Imagine that.
And imagine that. I mean, I think it's gotten the bad rap. People think that the ego, kill the ego is bad. Well, here's the down dirty truth. The ego is a natural part of you. We are all born with an ego intact. So if you think that you can destroy it, it's like cutting off your leg and saying, "Oh, I got a bad leg." Well, guess what? You're going to have to learn to compensate without it, right? And if it's something that is good, if someone loses a leg, we put a prosthetic leg, we do things to try to help them to get the rest of the body working. If it's something that we're taking away and saying it's bad, we're fooling ourselves.
Well, you're not recognizing that it's there to help you. To help you be your highest and best.
So the ego has gotten a bad rap. We talk about entelechy. It has to do, the ego is to try to help me be Susan Barbaro and you Julie Benetti. And the reader to be who the reader is. The reader is not supposed to read this book and now try to be the next Julie Benetti. The reader is supposed to read the book and become the best who they are.
Exactly.
Separate from us. This isn't a philosophy. We're trying to get you to believe and follow us. That's not what this is. This is about you excavating who you are, who I am. Not asking who am I? No, who I am. And the ego is meant to step in and help us define who I am. What do you like? What don't you like? And when you allow the ego to speak and become a part of you, it's balanced. You don't need anything from else. When my ego is intact, I'm not going to sit and compete with someone. I'm going to compete with myself.
Right, which is the best competition,
Exactly.
the healthiest. Exactly.
However, conversely, if I beat the heck out of my ego and I am not going to allow it to step up and be and say what it needs to say, well, then it goes into survivor mode. Well, now I'm going to be a better Julie Benetti. She's doing this. I have to do that. Or you go into, what can I do with this talent I have? Well, if you do this, then these are the vocations that you can move into. All of a sudden, the ego it starts to go into competition and it starts to go into survivor mode. Because if you beat it down, guess what? It's going to go into survivor mode, because that is part of what we believe the ego's force is. And part of its purpose is self-realization, self-actualization, becoming who you are meant to be. And if the ego is allowed to do it, egocentric, it means nothing. Because if my ego's intact, it helps to answer the question, who I am. I'm not competing with anyone else.
No.
But that's a balanced ego. And what's funny is the bullying that tends to occur when you try to be who you are has no impact on you. You understand what this is. It has no impact on you. And to address the issue of bullying, which is a whole topic on its own, is a bully bullies so as not to be bullied. Meaning that bullies perpetuate bullying. If you don't react to the bullying because your ego is intact and you have a healthy response, you are no longer going to continue bullying, because you're going to see someone who has an ability or a skill or something, instead of saying, hey, I got to knock them down, you're going to say, pump it up, do that, look what I've done this. Because when you see more people doing it, you have more inspiration to do that yourself.
And as you said, the healthy response relates to your ego being intact.
Yes.
And being balanced.
Yes.
And you getting that your ego is there to help you.
Yes. If you don't allow it, then things get mucky, because the ego is not going away. And if you think that you're going to beat the heck out of your ego, I'm going to tell you, you will not do it. Not in a healthy way. So why not turn around and look at something that's been given to you and embrace it? And when it's in balance, you are not going to fall into any of the things that everyone has told us.
And you start to make the true decisions for yourself based on truth.
Exactly.
And you move in a healthier manner with healthier energy.
The ego is almost, people talk about life purpose and people talk about what do I want to do? What can I do? But when you allow your ego to speak, the truth of the ego isn't, hey, guess what? You can do it better than them. You're faster than them. The ego doesn't say that. Do you know what the ego will turn around and say? Hey, remember last week when you drew that picture and you had fun doing it? Continue doing something in the art world. It's going to tell you you're a good athlete. Wow, look at you finally got an opportunity to go out there and play tennis. Look how great you played. The ego is going to tell you, go out there and practice and do more of it. We like that. I'm a good cook. People, no, I'm not. The ego's telling you you're a good cook. Why not just go out? It doesn't mean you have to become now a chef. It just means this is what I like doing. It's a part of who I am. Embrace it. It doesn't define you. It just helps to define a little bit more of who you are. And the ego doesn't have one, it's not like a straight road. It's not going to call you an athlete. It's not going to call you a chef. It's not going to call you a teacher. It's not going to call you a healer. It's going to open up doors to different things that you like to do. And if you allow it to speak, you're going to find 3 or 4 different things and put it together in a way that everyone will say, how'd you do that? You didn't do it. All you did is you opened up to these other parts of you that you didn't know existed. And instead of shutting the door, saying, no, you opened the door and you said, hey, that's pretty cool. That is one way of receiving guidance.
And with the important verb there, allowing it.
Not killing it.
Right.
Saying, hey, I hear you.
Allowing it to help you and to help you thrive in who I am.
And I guess the important part of this is, I think a lot of people are probably afraid of it, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be seen as egotistical, I'm going to be seen as being selfish, I'm going to be seen as being full of myself.
Society gives it a bad rap.
Exactly.
Sure.
But I think to not say that, I would be amiss if I didn't say that. Of course, that's going to be your initial thought.
Right.
I shouldn't do this.
Right.
Who am I? Because then, of course, you're going to try to beat up the ego by saying, oh, what do I know? Again, I'm not thin enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, whatever enough you want to put in there. I'm here to say that you are enough as you are. Open it up and listen to it. And eventually you'll find when it's in balance, it has nothing to do with anyone else. It's all for you.
Right, it's all
just
for you.
For you.
That's a pretty cool gift.
Why wouldn't you take it? Why are we ignoring it?
Utilize it, right?
And so, part of the bullying gets a stronger and stronger hold on people because, we're told to give up your ego. So instead of embracing your difference, what makes you different than everybody, we're told to hide it. You're different, you're weird, something's wrong with you. The ego isn't going to say that. The ego will go into complete survival mode.
Of course.
And say, no, we're going to fight this and I'm going to fight for you, is what the ego's saying. And you get angry. You either go into striking out against someone, which is one side of the ego survival, or you beat yourself up even more. You beat down the ego. You turn on and self-mutilate. And all the ego is trying to say is, hey, wait a minute, you're okay. And once you get it, even I go back to the whole idea of bullying, which is rampant in society. And don't think it's just kids. It's the adults that are the worst bullies. Once the person understands who I am, all that bullying, you see right through it. You realize that there's nothing to it. And then, therefore, again, you don't perpetuate it, but you also can look at someone else who's being bullied and say, don't listen to them.
Right.
Listen
Because again,
to who
that's
you are.
where the true power is. Again.
And one of the things that we talk about in this, and we talked about in the previous segment, is starting to listen to the truth. You can trust yourself. I mean, if you can't trust anyone else, you can trust yourself. And the ego is a part of yourself. Sometimes you just sit there and open it up and it's going to blah, 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 until it's like, okay, now here I am. It's almost like it's going to do a brain dump for a minute. And then it starts talking and you will hear it and you'll know, because you will feel lighter. You'll feel good about yourself. The whole concept of I'm better than someone or less than someone goes away. That when the ego is intact and speaks from its truth, again, nothing about anyone else.
And it's time to trust that truth.
Of course,
And allow it to help you.
Part 1. Self. How do I exhibit self-care?
Self-care, what it is and what it is not.
so
Being selfish, greedy,
That's what we
thinking
come
about
to
yourself
believe.
all the time, being competitive, hurting yourself, a whole laundry list of items. Hurting others, thinking only of yourself.
I think it also boils down to the idea that, self-care is looked at as being selfish. How can you take care of yourself over someone else? That's horrible. How do you do that? And if you did that, oh my gosh, it's a poor reflection. But I keep going to the visual of when you're on a plane and they talk about a mother with children, and if the oxygen mask, you put your mask on and then you can help them. Because if you don't put in your mask because you want to help everyone, something, you gotta, if you're fortunate enough and nothing happens, you take care of everyone. Yeah, you get yours on. And it's not about, no, me first. It's more about, let me take care of myself and then I can fully take care of everybody. But true self-care, if you don't operate from self-care, you're a needy person.
So really, in this section, we said all about what self-care isn't and then what it is. So when you operate from awareness from that standpoint, you're fully in the space of who you are. And you start to exhibit constant self-care. It's great the way we have that section in here about how that same awareness and presence can be related to nature, the tree.
So, the tree, it wants to be a tree. The tree's not out to try to be the ocean or the sky. It's just the tree. And as it takes care of itself, as the tree absorbs the water it needs, it, takes in the sunshine that it needs to grow. As it exhibits self-care, then it actually can provide shelter. It can provide a home for other types of nature, birds and other animals. It's only through its own self-care can it provide that. I mean, similarly, when I think of a person, someone who is self-sufficient, who takes care of themselves, and I don't mean to the expense of anyone else, because that's not self-care.
No.
But if you take care of yourself and you do what you need, not to take from someone, not to hurt someone, but for what you need, only then can you actually give to someone else in a way that you're not looking for something in return.
Right, freely and without expectation. And in that sense, when we look to nature and we look to the tree, it does all that, and then it lives in harmony with everything around it.
Exactly. So when you are exhibiting self-care, that is really you're bringing your best self forward to your community. You're not needy. You're not looking for anything. You're not operating from a lack or deficiency. And in that, you're able to bring a full and complete you. And then you can really contribute however you want to contribute to your community, to your family, to whomever, because you're not needy and you're not operating from guilt or expectation. You are truly able to do what you choose to do.
And you're taking the time to consider what it is you want, what it is you want to do.
Who does that? I mean, you know, if you ask somebody, most people, not everybody, but, you know, what are you going to do about this? The first thing you think of is, well, what does this person need? What does that person need?
Right.
If I don't do this, what are people going to think? And, you know, am I going to get in trouble at work? Or am I going to get yelled at by someone? Or is someone going to think I'm mean? And there's no self-care in that.
And in that breath of space, you're not taking the time to think, what is it I want?
No. You know, one of the invocations is, for me, that was so powerful, is I will take a moment to consider what I want to do. That's, for me personally,
For me as
was
well.
was huge, to really think about what do I want to do with this. And, you know, you will change. You will change once you start operating from self-care. And what happens is the people that want you to fulfill their roles and fulfill their needs, as dysfunctional as that might be, they're not going to be happy with you, and they're not going to just sit back and say, "Oh wow, good for you." You're going to be called all kinds, even if it doesn't relate to selfishness. It's going to be related to you're mean, you're nasty, you're, you know, again, I don't want to sit here and start creating names for people, but and sometimes when you operate from self-care, the truth is those who you affect, you tend to do things that are in their best interests, even if it doesn't appear that way when you're doing it. You know, I equate it to, you know, an alcoholic. You know, if someone's in that space and you're trying to help them, you want to, you know, you enable them because you love them, you want to help them. But actually by saying no and sort of cutting them off, it feels horrible. But you know, to the core, that is what's really helping them, because you don't want to support any kind of a self-destructive behavior. You don't want to, but sometimes doing the right thing doesn't always feel good. But after a while, you get to the other side of it and you realize that it was exactly what you needed to do. And that's hard. Sometimes that's just hard, unless you remind yourself.
And getting yourself to that breath of space to take that moment. Once again, it's just that clear and simple, but sometimes it's really hard to do. You take that moment to consider what you want.
Right.
And then you realize you're actually minding your own business with self-care. I mean, who else is going to mind it except yourself? Why are you minding anyone else's business?
Right. Well, people will mind your business, but with ulterior motives. They're going to mind your business as long as it fits into whatever role they choose it to be. That's why that, you know, we say mind your business with self-care.
And that takes you along the path of remembering who you are.
Exactly. And once you exhibit self-care, you find out who you are, and then you start to go into, you know, you start changing your world. And you think at first that maybe you're not doing the right thing, or, you know, you're not being the good daughter, the good sister, the good brother, the good, you know, spouse, whatever it is, until you really get the concept and you start living from that space. And then you understand that the truth is everyone benefits when you exhibit self-care for yourself. It may not be immediate, but once you do that consistently and with your every action, everyone benefits.
Part 1. Self. What is it like to be healthy?
Defining what it's like to be healthy. What does that mean?
Isn't that what everybody wants to know?
Sure.
Wow, isn't it awesome if you can figure out you can be a healer, you can heal everything. Or more importantly, you can heal yourself. We talk a lot about healing, and we mention that doctors and holistic practitioners and, quote, healers can help you get the body back to the state that it was in before it got sick. Medicine can do that, drugs can do that, but healing only comes from within. The whole idea of being able to put yourself in a better place can only come from within. You could do it with help from others.
Right, and that brings up a funny point that, you know, in consideration of your health, take into consideration, you know, the medical environment, you know, what appointments you have to go through, the kind of life that you live, you know, the energy around you, your words and thoughts and all these things And they all, like you said, surround you.
So if we say that, when someone comes and tells you that you can heal yourself, I think many people can tailspin into a guilt. Oh, I'm sick. Or then, people can get angry and say, well, what about this person? How dare you say that? First of all, let me say that we're not saying every single situation is reflective of this. When you go through this entire book, there's some parts that you're going to resonate with and say, oh my God, I am doing this. And then there's other parts that you're going to say, no, I'm not doing that. And but if you ask that from a truthful standpoint, there are some people that get sick, and we say in the book at different times we all fall into that realm of needing help. And sometimes that is a part of your journey. And so what I'm saying isn't every single person who's in a position has created this and you should be healthy. Sometimes we learn from our sickness, as we stated in there, and your life changes because of it.
Right. Also, what's hugely valuable is your consideration of that question is, what is it like to be healthy? And like we said before, is it what other people are saying to you? If someone's deciding, oh, you look sick, then all of a sudden, do you feel sick? So it's what that means to you.
When we talk about being healthy and being sick, and we talk, there's parts of it that, a person may react in a certain way. The question becomes, if someone looks at you is already being sick, how do you conquer that and get to the other side? So one of the questions that we ask is, what would it mean if you were healthy? What would that mean to your friends, your family? What would that mean about work? What would that mean about the definition of who you are? Those are the questions to contemplate, to see what the sickness is for you.
And the truth of it.
Because it's for you. It's not being done to you. It's something that's for you to learn, to experience, or whatever. And if you move to that space of there's something for me in this, then you can look at those questions. Those will help you to decide. And then it's a situation of, if this is something that you're perpetuating a story, and the story's not working for you, you can undo the story. If you're having a heart attack, the doctor can you go in and they can restart your heart and open up the blood vessels or whatever it is you need. Then you take it and you do what you want with it. You could sit there and beat yourself up and send yourself back in the hospital, or you can say, wait a second, what am I doing here? I mean, that's Western medicine. This isn't even talking about where we're talking about. Either you jump in the bandwagon of being healthy or you don't. And I think this is just a discussion, is where do you fall with this? And understanding that some of it is, I don't want to say it's preventable, but what is your part in it? And even if you have some, again, a preconceived disability, there are people out there with disabilities, perceived disabilities, that are doing amazing things. Things that other people are like, are you kidding me? How are they doing that? They're amazing. Just because they don't see it as a disability, they've kind of moved beyond it. They've moved into, okay, well, here I am. What am I going to do? And I think that's huge. That mindset is huge.
And that connects into the energy of it. And looking, as we talk about, how science looks at, the good energy that you surround your thoughts, and you surround, how you move, and that affects you as well. So we also talk about giving from a place of abundance and giving freely with that, and we connect it into charities.
When we contemplated a lot of things in this world and in life, we looked at charities, we looked at ego, we looked at bullying, we looked at a lot of things that don't really quite seem to be working. When you are constantly volunteering and giving, and it comes from a place where you are not full and complete, it doesn't make sense. I mean, because there are people who volunteer and donate and still don't feel good about anything. And when you look at that, that's a telltale sign that something is not correct. We started investigating the idea of charities. Charities were set up to help a person in need, be it sickness, be it financial, disaster. It was set up to help someone in need. I use the idea of a mainland and an island. Everyone's on the mainland. Something happens to someone and they kind of get moved off the mainland. They feel like they're in an island, kind of off, lost. And, charity's supposed to go in, be like a boat, go pick up the person, bring them back to the mainland. So in the ideal, for the most part, a charity is like temporary. It's something that you give. You think of any disaster, if it's money or it's aid, it comes in, it helps them in their greatest time of need, and then they can continue to be who they are now, and they move from that space. Charities, as they are now, in many cases, instead of being in need for the recipient, there's a need for the donor. People are donating for their own needs. The donors are in need of charity because There's a lot of issues surrounding worthiness. I'm going to use egocentric. Certain people, sometimes it's a who's who of the charity world. It's really not about, let's set up something because such and such happened. We need to help this person. It becomes the people that are donating to fulfill a need that they have. And that corrupts the charity, because when you're giving from a place of lack or deficiency, it's no different than a person who doesn't operate from self-care. If you don't operate from self-care, you're needy. If you're donating because there's something that you are truly looking to receive, but what is that saying about the charity? It's already corrupted. And one of the things is, it's easy sometimes to see with a business who's made billions of dollars and has done that by not paying people fairly, unscrupulous business practices, deceiving, or anything that's not on the up and up. And I understand fair competition and, you try to do your best. If you're operating from that, and now you've got more money than you could ever have. I mean, you look at huge captains of industry that made billions, and they set up all these charities, because that if you donate, well, we're undoing kind of some of the bad we did because we're donating now. And I always say $1 worth of good deeds, fair business practices, and kindness is worth more than $1 million in a charity. The energy side of it.
Thank you for listening to this production from EI Alliance. Check out our Amazon authors pages for books and podcasts. Find New Threads music and their latest album on iTunes, Spotify, and newthreads.us.